Okay. So here we are at our Limitless Living gathering in whatever month of the year it is. I don't know. Is it February? It's February, and it's still 2001. So I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome you here. Our Limitless Living Club is where we come together to get a shot of inspiration and motivation and get our mojos charged and just come together in that vein, in that intention. And please remind me if I forget to do this. I want to put a little poll in our group because I want to do more things. And instead of me running ahead and doing more things without asking if you'd like any or all of those things, just make sure that I put a little poll in so that I can put a few options in and see what you'd like. I am thinking about things like I absolutely definitely want to do a meditation. Nothing long, nothing complex, but just have a meditation, a personal power meditation. I want to put out motivational messages, but maybe not every day. Because very often we can sign up to stuff that's like every day. I've done it myself. And then after about 3 weeks, it's like, oh my gosh, not that again. So it might be that, every other day or something, but just bear that in mind, so that we just have this general upliftment and support. If you don't know about the boot camp, I have a new boot camp that starts on Monday. Of course, I should have a little link that I put in the chat box, but I've forgotten. But I will put it in our Limitless Living Facebook group. Please reach out to me if you'd like to chat about that. If you're in business for yourself and all that good stuff. But I don't want to go into detail about that because it's not what we hear about this evening, but it just occurred to me. So I'm going to put the link in our Limitless Living Club. Reach out to me and we can speak about that. Tomorrow, Saturday, I know I've got 2 spaces I could speak with you. So yeah, having said all of that, I'm so delighted to be here with you. And I'm very delighted to have, probably without exaggeration, probably one of the world's leading Feng Shui masters. So I think in these times, really, we need everything available to us, for us, to keep life working in our favor, for us, to stack the odds in our favor. So look, if there's something really simple and straightforward that we can do in our environment, in our home, in our office environment, that can make a difference to how we feel, which is of course the key to everything, how we feel and our good fortune, then bring it on, is what I would say. So without further ado, I'm going to invite Ms. Sarah McAllister to step forward. Sarah, come forward.
Hello, good evening. Lovely to be here. Oh, hey, Karen. I know Karen. Hi.
Fantastic. So I am just going to throw a couple of questions your way and leave you to speak. And then I absolutely want to open the floor so that everyone here can have their specific questions answered. Maybe the first question, Sarah, is what is Feng Shui?
Yeah, okay. So some of you will know a little bit about it. There'll be various levels of awareness, but fundamentally, it's a way of aligning with good energy. And that can be in your interiors. It can also be in your landscaping. It can also be through the power of designing a city, for example. So from massive spaces to smaller spaces. And it comes originally from China, probably about 5,000 years ago. And it was like a joint venture in a way between the farmers and the court astrologers. So the farmers would be in tune with nature and they would understand the natural energy flowing through the landscapes because, of course, they needed to have a successful relationship with nature in order to have their crops be successful. So they looked for signs in nature about what was going on with the weather and the I don't know, in fact, there's a lot of observations about the animal life as well that comes into some of the more advanced feng shui when you look at locations to build a new house or to site a grave and things like that. So the farmers were just out in nature in China and feeling the qi. Okay, so it wasn't very heady or technical, it was just quite practical. And then the court astrologers, the educated men, usually men in China, would roam the lands looking for knowledge, basically. And they would have interesting conversations with these land people. And they thought about the correlation between astrology and what these people were saying. And so slowly over time, they developed all these systems, which you can see in this beautiful Lopan compass. And this is the Chinese compass. It aligns north just like anything, like any other compass. And it gives you a certain information about a property. So the feng shui of your property, the orientation, whether it faces north or whether it faces south or whatnot, has specific information that was discovered thousands of years ago. And so while it was primarily used for siting of buildings, inevitably as the world got, you know, more and more built up, people have been using it for interiors and things like that, which is great. And Feng Shui used to be one of the 8 branches, well, is one of the 8 branches of Chinese medicine. So it used to be used for health a lot more than maybe business, you know. So along with acupuncture and herbalism and the massage factor and the qigong and all the other parts of Chinese medicine, Feng Shui was what was used if the doctor couldn't keep somebody healthy, you know. So they'd say, well, you've obviously got a chronic condition, so therefore we haven't been able to help. Maybe it's your environment, you know, which kind of makes sense. So it's got some quite profound diagnostic tools within it, even though we inevitably get sort of fixated on our interiors these days. But yeah, it's a really interesting study. And of course, it's not just about space. You know, there's this whole timing aspect, the Chinese astrology aspect. So,
you know, what I'm curious about is, maybe other people are too, is what difference can it make? I mean, have you worked with a client, Sarah, where they've had a really dramatic response, something changed either financially or romantically or career-wise or something?
yeah, I mean, like I could talk all night, really, but I mean, the ones that stand out for me are there was a little boy who was just terribly suffering, very antisocial, very withdrawn, and this was quite early in my career. He was in the worst possible position in his bedroom. He was up in an attic, and he was kind of right underneath the eaves, with his head literally next to the door. There was some sort of spiritual goings on as well, so we had to do a space clearing. But we moved the guy's bed to a much stronger position, and he was so much better, like instantaneously. And even the father, who was Irish actually, he said, I can't believe it, you know, I thought this was all mumbo jumbo, but this has really worked, you know. So there was that little kid. I've had like skincare parlors saying, oh my God, we started using a different door and our outgoings have gone down by 40%. It's amazing. You know, we've got a better work-life balance, etc., etc. I've had some really interesting experiences with a child that was stammering a lot. And we found, bizarrely, like in the middle of North London, there was a spring that was in the southeast of their garden. And that's associated with the mouth in the early heaven sequence. And the spring wasn't actually fully flowing. It was just sort of sputtering. And I thought, gosh, that's really interesting. And we opened it up, and she started speaking much, much better. And the teacher came up to her after one of the classes and said, wow, what's happened? She's speaking really well, you know. I mean, after about 3 months, she did go back to it a little bit, but she was still a lot better. So it was like a really sort of instant change in her, you know. So it can vary from finances to business, you know, people having the first inquiries that they haven't had for like 6 months or whatever, you know. It really varies. It's why it's so very difficult to niche, because it can be applied to so many things.
That's amazing. And, you know, as you say that, I'm just thinking about this client I have, and she has an 18, is he 18? I think he's 18 months. But oh my Lord, he just doesn't sleep at night.
Yeah.
And she's now had to move her bed into his bedroom because he just won't sleep. A couple of hours at most, and it's quite a fittish sleep.
Mm.
Wow. And I'm just thinking as you're saying that, Sarah.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of success with children who can't sleep. That's a whole category in itself. And the mums and dads are like, oh my God, thank God, you know, because they're like at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And then we change the bedroom around or whatever, and they sleep like a log, you know.
Wow. So maybe there are some general principles that you could give us, and then I'm just going to open the floor and guys have your questions ready. I mean, we've got Sarah here, you know, use the space.
Yeah, no, I mean, you asked me specifically to talk about career and wealth, so I'm happy to do that. So yeah, I mean, if you live in a house, basically, you want to make sure that the frontage is really clear. Um, it's always the front that is to do with your future. So try not to like have too many like large shrubs or really large trees right in front of the house. It's all right if they're set back a little bit.
Yeah.
The the property is divided into like left and right, so male and female. And the male side is, if you look at the front of your house, or the front of your apartment in some instances, if you look at the front and you look at the right hand side, that's the dragon side. So that is going to be about career. It's going to be about how you draw opportunities into the world, into your life, and also make sure that the pathway or the chi course that comes towards the front door
Yeah.
is clear and is kept nicely. You know, especially over winter.
Oh my God. Sorry about that, guys. It's the strangest thing. I'm just going to try and get rid of this. That's terrible. Sorry, guys. Sarah, are you there? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, so it's you want to be able to draw good energy towards you, and especially over winter, you know, things can get a bit decayed and a bit flat potentially outside. Just need to make sure that you keep it beautiful. Don't let moss accrue too much, because it's just quite yin. And the same with things like ivy. You don't want too much ivy everywhere. It sort of takes the energy a little bit too much. And so the front is really important for your future. In terms of career, the north is also really important. So people need to have a handle about how to take a reading or decipher where the directions are, don't they? You know, because it's it's not just where your front door is. There's a couple of styles of Feng Shui where they say put the bagua where your front door is, and that's a little misleading, really, because the fundamental principles of Feng Shui are about the power of the directions. So if you say that the career is automatically where the door is, then it's erroneous, really. The career is where the north is because of the trigram of water, and water is the journey, which is your career in life, for example. So there's a way of explaining the Bagua, and that's why it is linked to directions, because it's so obvious, isn't it, that in the east, the sort of, we're talking in the northern hemisphere now. So in the east, the rising of the sun is so much more kind of uplifting than a dark sort of northern space where there's not much light. A little bit like this corner. I keep meaning to get a lamp here, actually. But so that the south is really uplifting and generally quite bright, especially in the summer. And then the west is where the sun sets, and it's just so much more relaxing, isn't it? The difference between dawn and sunset is noticeable. So even for people who don't necessarily believe in things like Feng Shui, there's a chi change that goes on. So you do need to understand where the directions are in your house. So my advice would be to get a compass, a little one. It doesn't have to be fancy. It can be like a little camping compass. I wouldn't rely on your phone too much, because they can go wrong. The compass will give you a reading, so you can stand in the center of your home, and then you can like think, oh, okay, my door is in this section, and you can create a grid, like a Sudoku grid in a way, sort of 9 boxes, if you like. Or you can create a piece of pie that's got 8 slices of pie, and in the center. So whichever way you want to do it, you'll find out where in your floor plan certain areas will fall. So once you've got that as your navigation point, you can then overlay the basic principles. And the bug was really lovely as a sort of Feng Shui starter. It's the one that most people want to hear about, on a basic course. Oh, where's my love corner, or where's my wealth corner, or where's my career corner, and all that jazz. I mean, if people want resources like that, I've got plenty on my blog at fengshuiagency.com. There's all sorts of articles.
.com, is that it?
Sorry,
what was it called? Your blog?
fengshuiagency.com.
Agency.com.
I can put it in the chat a bit later if you like.
So inside the house, Sarah, what are some key principles in terms of inside the house? I'm sure we've all heard about clutter, but why is there such an emphasis on clutter and not having it? Why is that important?
Yeah, well, because you want, energy is a bit like water. If you think of it like water, if there's clutter in the way, it's going to go into tiny little eddies, isn't it? And it's going to get stuck, like a river doesn't always flow. People talk about going with the flow, right? But they don't realize that sometimes if you go with the flow, you get caught up in the edge, in a crappy part of the river or whatever, so you don't want to have too much clutter. You want to keep the surfaces nice and clear so that the energy can flow freely. That's completely different, though, from having a sort of creative mess, if you like. I mean, I when I'm really busy, I'm just so focused on the task at hand. I don't care if there's a little bit of disorganization, because I know that once I've finished what I wanted to do, I can then just clear up again and start with a clean slate again. So so clutter is just, and sometimes there's reasons, there's emotional reasons why you've got clutter. That's the big one, so it's not really feng shui, but it's part of it. It's a really important part of it. And you've sometimes got emotional reasons, that maybe a personal organizer or a clutter specialist decluttering specialist will help you get a grip on. It can be hoarding, it can be fear of the future, fear of letting go. People hold on to stuff from like past lovers and things like that as sentimental, and then you ask them about that person, and they say, oh yeah, it was a right idiot, really hurt me. Why have you still got his stuff underneath your bed? Do you know what I mean? It's like so it's incredible what people will do with their space if they're just left to their own devices. You know, I mean, it's kind of sweet in a way, but that's why I can help, and it's kind of nice to help people move on like that. But yeah, clutter is a big one. But back to the kind of interiors in terms of the feng shui itself, you know, if you want to have a good career, you need to feel stable and supported. So you want to have a nice high chair. You know, I tried to have one of those trendy little wobble stools, and it was really nice, but it just didn't really feel, you know, it's so much nicer to have a chair. And to have a solid wall behind you is really important. It's so, so important. And some of these things, they sound so simple, which they are, but it's surprising how many people will just, due to space or whatever, they will push the desk right up to the wall and sit like staring at a wall mostly, you know, like doing their typing or whatever, and their back is exposed. And what that does is I mean, it's not going to, like a lot of Feng Shui principles, it's not going to, you know, damage you overnight, but like, it's like a sort of drip effect. It's like your kidneys are not supported. You can't see the doorway usually if you're in that configuration. There's just, you know, a little bit of the sort of reptilian brain is activated because it doesn't know quite what's going to come from behind. So you're much better to have your back covered, because over time, it's those small little gains over time that will make all the difference, really. So definitely have a strong back and a nice, clear future if you can.
Yeah, and a tall chair like you've got there.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
And in the bedroom, people often talk about the positioning of the bed. Should it be facing the door, or should it not?
Well, again, it depends on the type of layout of the room, really. I mean, some bedrooms have 2 or more doors. So depends on the distance away from the bed as well. I mean, I'm not too strict on that. If it's a small room, you've got a tiny little bed and it's right in front of the door, it's not brilliant. But that one's a funny little myth, because as far as my understanding is, it was a Chinese culture, cultural kind of tradition or custom or whatever, to, if somebody died, they'd put the coffin in line with the front door just to get it ready to go out of the house. And that's my understanding of that one. So that's over time, you find a lot of these traditions are kind of taken out of context. And so people then freak out about, oh my God, my footboard is right opposite the door. Well, if there's like 2 or 3 meters between your footboard and the door, then don't stress out about it too much. Do you know what I mean? Because again, remember that qi is like water. And if you open the door, the water has time to kind of circulate before it gets to the bed, doesn't it? If it's 2 or 3 meters. So again, if it's a small space, and this is why, you know, Feng Shui is, you know, you can do a lot in a small space. And I try to help as many people as I can, but it is a sort of like middle class kind of thing, really. You've got these nice big houses and a nice big garden to actually do some very meaningful changes. But the small spaces, you can still do a few things, you know, but then you end up with a sort of a list of priorities because you can't tick all the boxes, you know. And so in a bedroom, again, you want that same principle. You don't want your head against a window, even if it means your feet aren't facing the door or whatever. Your priority would be to have the solidity behind you. Ideally, it's good to have balance both sides. So quite often you see people who only have like one bedside table. And no reason, you can't think of a reason why, but they don't have another one. They just didn't think about it. Or quite often I go into places and everything's immaculate, and yet they've forgotten to get a headboard. So things are dropping down the back of the bed and things like that. And just simple little things that people forget about. They get too busy you know, and it's just really important to have that comfort and that security.
Definitely. And I'm just wondering if there's any questions. Ladies and gents, would that be useful? Could we do that now? Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that now, and then there's a few more things to say, but we'll see how we go, really, you know.
Okay, so have we got the volume loud enough, guys? Maybe that's me. I'm going to turn it up as well. Absolutely. Okay. So, fengshuiagency.com. Thank you for that, Karen. Right, come through. Do not hang back, guys. Feel free, possibly if you want to show your space.
I have a question. Can I ask?
Absolutely.
Hello. Hi. Do you prioritize, as it's Chinese New Year, do you prioritize annual or personal energies when you're trying to get the perfect layout for a home?
I think it's a bit of both. Somebody said they can barely hear me.
That was me.
Oh, can you hear me a bit better now?
Yes.
Okay, good. I've only just opened the chat, you see, so I was, yeah. So yeah, it's definitely a mixture of both, Nicola, because you've got the house itself will have its own birth chart, if you know what I mean. Its own flying star chart, its own Feng Shui chart. You'll have your personal horoscope, and then how the two relate together, and then the annual influences of the annual flying stars, or this year it's a year of the metal ox. So it all sort of ties in together, really.
So how do you choose which one, if they seem to be sort of, which one would you prioritize for bringing in good auspicious energy?
Well, it's always nice to work with the current moment.
Yeah.
So you've got your annual and your monthly flying stars, but when you're living in a space that you can't be changing where you are every month, right? Necessarily, unless you live in like the winter palace and the summer palace, and you have that luxury. And you're kind of getting into the territory of date selection and timing and this, that, and the other. So the Feng Shui and the horoscope and the date selection are distinct. There are times when they do all blend together, which is fantastic, but they are very distinct as well. So and it also then depends on what does the person want, and what has been their experience so far, and then what are they looking to achieve, and what potential has the house got, and what potential has their birth chart got, and how do we marry that up, you know, because some houses are a bit weak in certain areas, and it may be best to move forward in strength in some other area of life, and then look to have a new property somewhere else that is stronger for something else, you know. So it's always, that's what's so fascinating about it for me, actually, is every property is really different, and everybody inside the properties are completely different as well. So
what I love about Feng Shui is some of it is actually really practical.
yeah,
because it's the thing of why have a door on a cupboard that you can't open because you haven't fixed it? Fix the door because it's bad Feng Shui. The dripping tap, a lot of it is about keeping your house clean and tidy, functioning well, and then having the flow. And it's funny when you talk to people and they go, oh, I don't believe in it. They're often the person that's got a really untidy house.
yeah,
So
it's true.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Come through, ladies. Any other questions? Come through.
It's not a question, but I'll happily share something because I've had some hi Sarah, it's great to see you again. It's been a while. I've had some fantastic experiences of having Feng Shui readings, you know, full-on feng shui readings done. When I had my event management company and I had a big team, I had somebody in, things weren't going quite as well as I thought they would, and everything. So they did the birth charts of everybody within the company and what they did, and changed where everybody sat and where we all were. It turned out that part of the building was missing, so part of the energy was missing, and moved the finance team and he put something in the corner. I'm not sure what it was now. Moved me to a much more powerful position, and literally within 24 hours, one of my clients got in touch and said, have you seen this request to bid for a contract? And I hadn't, and I applied, and it was the biggest contract we had ever won. And it was literally, it was a matter of hours, hours. And I've had other things happen as well. It's just, I just think it's incredible, absolutely incredible. And when we moved in here, before I put anything out, I had somebody in to do a feng shui reading. Someone you know, Denise.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah. So yeah, so it's not a question, but I just wanted to share that because I love the power of it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's lovely to hear stories like that, you know, and yeah, it can happen so quickly. I think because I deal with so many different people, I have to stop and read through their experiences, because I don't remember all of them, obviously, you know, but it's amazing when I do, because you know, it's so lovely, you know. You can change somebody's desk and then immediately inquire. The phone literally starts to call to ring rather. Excuse me. And you know, really, it happens really fast sometimes. You know, I remember a woman in Bristol. We changed her bed, and the very next day, and she'd been single for like 10 years. The very next day, she met the love of her life. It's just like
Seriously,
really quick.
What we all want to know is, what was that change? Seriously, no, but really, what was her bedroom like?
Yeah, well, it was, oh goodness. I mean, I can't remember the exact one, but it was like shifting like from one of the kinships to another kinship in the 64 Kwa. So I think it was on like Cool and Empty or something like that. And we moved it into I think from memory, Power at the back, Family in front, or something like that. And it shifted for her, you know. And I wonder sometimes, I've thought to myself that there's a timeline, like time is circular in a way, or there is no such thing as time, and it's just like this whole quantum universe that is, it's like, I mean, I know for a fact it's all natural law, basically. So we're talking about natural law, we're talking about our own bioenergetics of our aura, we're talking about the cosmos, you know, and it all kind of harmonizes, and sometimes all you need is somebody to come along and like switch a little button or unlock something, you know.
So did you literally change the positioning of her bed?
Yeah, I literally do that sometimes, and unless I've got a bit of a bad back, but I literally do find myself humping beds around, kind of thing, you know. And
she noticed the difference, because that's a dramatic change from one day to the next. I mean, that's seriously dramatic. So did she feel different within herself?
Oh gosh, I didn't ask her, actually. She was just overjoyed, really. She was a PA of mine on and off for a couple of years. Yeah, it would be good to. I think it's nice to get videos. You know, maybe I should call up a few old clients and do videos with them. You know, because there's so much storytelling that can be had. And
no, it's amazing.
People love all that, don't they? You know.
Oh, we do. We want to know what happened. You know, it's like Slimming World. from the after, and how did that happen? Yeah, no, gosh, no. And someone is asking, Karen Kyo is asking, do you have any suggestions as to how to dress windows? What are your thoughts on Venetian blinds or net curtains? Yeah.
Oh, what are Venetian blinds? Do you mean the Venetian? Is that the kind of slatted ones?
Flat, yeah.
Yeah. We're not a fan of Venetian blinds, the slatted ones. They kind of cut the chi a little bit. You can get some very pretty net curtains, but they can get a bit grimy and things like that. So you just need to, they do need maintenance. Sometimes you can get that really nice adhesive film that is patterned. That's quite nice if you've got like a main road in front of you or a sidewalk or whatever. And you want to just give a little bit of privacy. You can actually get the windows treated, obviously, but that's quite an investment. I mean, with windows, you just want to keep them nice and sparkling, inside and out, and not too heavy in the material, but you do need to have some sort of blackout, especially if it's the bedroom. You want to have total darkness. Even if you love to be in tune with the sun and things like that, it's still much better to have total darkness, because otherwise your glands don't really register that they're asleep. You know, there's a lot of studies done now on the impact of light and how it's, you know, we just need to have that full blackout. And even get lighting systems now, sidereal lighting, which is really beautiful. It will change tone at night and become more yellow, and it's more restful. More
yeah, Dyson have just brought out a lamp, actually. It's about 600 quid, but they have just brought out a lamp that does exactly that, Sarah. It's like really soft and very restful, and it just adjusts to the time of day. So yeah, I mean, probably everything, you know, from ancient Chinese culture is coming in now. And
well, I think that's the advantage that these ancient systems had, because they really relied upon instinct, and we all know that instinct is much more intelligent than it's been made out to be. You know, it's been suppressed by the science, and you know, there's almost this worship of science now, which is kind of frightening.
Yeah.
And a sort of politicization of science as well. But yeah, certainly, you know, I mean, I've been tracking studies that show that in order to have a wellness experience, or an experience of being in a spiritual space, there has to be nature in it, or for a space to be considered well, it has to have nature and a sense of spirituality, which is quite interesting. And this is coming from people who are really rather academic. It's like there's just something so strongly innate in us that we crave, you know. I mean, there's a massive trend in biophilia, to have all sorts of plants. I mean, I've got a huge money plant and orchids and whatnot, but because I like seeing them, I don't want them here. So it's good to have that greenery around you. It gives you what's called the savanna effect, which again is very ancient and goes back to sort of when we were, I don't know, what, cavemen and women or something, you know, sat in our cave, all nice and nestled in our cave, which is the mountain principle of Feng Shui. And we have this view of the forest and the savanna in front of us, or the open plains or whatever. And that's why, you know, like, you know, writer's block, you know, people go on writer's retreats to the coast or whatnot, you know, anywhere where there's a beautiful view and they've escaped their day-to-day or whatever. And they find themselves unlocked because they can, you know, having this view of the coast or whatever. I mean, sometimes I have to go for a walk with 360 almost degrees view, just to get that yang horizon energy. I mean, I love the local fields, but they're just, it's a bit humdrum. You know, but so occasionally I drive further than I ought to go for a bit of a wander. So
I hope
yeah, we need that.
Page of the Daily Mail anytime soon.
You what?
I said, I hope we don't see you on the front page of the Daily Mail.
Yes, Feng Shui consultant discovered up in Liverpool on a consultation. Yeah.
Miles outside her area. Don't have a cup of coffee, because then you'll be done for having a picnic.
Oh, right. Yeah. No, I mean, it's, yeah, I mean, generally it's generally just new builds that I can do at the moment. And that's just generally what I'm doing is going to plots of land. The architectural trade is open, building trade and the estate agency is open. And I just, for the sake of other people's anxiety, just make sure we don't have like a temperature or anything like that. So I, you know, you have to take on board what other people consider about these things. So
totally. Question about, do you have any recommendations for creating energy in an apartment over one level? That's coming in from Ash.
Sorry, in an apartment over what?
Over one level? Maybe just flat, where there's not stairs, like not a house.
Yeah, gosh, yeah. So I mean, it depends really what type of apartment, how many walls there are, how many windows, and if it's a corner apartment or a center one with 3 walls and just a few windows. But if you're on your own there and you can make the commitment to have a pet, then have a pet, because pets bring yang energy. So it could be a little dog or a little cat. It can be, you know, it could even be like a little, what are they called? Guinea pig or whatever. It could be quite a small pet, because they just represent life and movement, and they're sort of scurrying around and this, that, and the other. But you know, and again, it's like, it's tricky to give generalizations, but water features are really good, because the circulation of the water creates a beautiful auditory effect. The moving is moving the energy literally, because water, it's been scientifically proven that energy is pulled into water, is attracted to water. And so if you're moving it around, it means that there's a dynamism, really. The problem is that sometimes if you're in a small space, you get these tiny, terrible looking water features. You know, nobody seems to have designed a good one for some reason. They can be a little bit like, sometimes they have a noisy pump or something, so they kind of defeat the purpose in a way. So again, you know, so if you've got a small space, sometimes it's better to have a fish tank, because it's more effective in a way, because the fish are moving. It's easier to keep clean. There is a pump, but it's not really noisy. And if you have like too large a water feature inside, it starts splashing and all that sort of jazz, you know. So they're quite tricky, unless again you've got a lot of space and you've got some glamorous pad that's got like pebble pool at the bottom of the water feature or whatever, you know. But then simple things, you know, keeping the windows open even at night in the winter, as long as you're not putting yourself at risk of like an intruder or whatever. But some people, again, especially sort of creative types, you know, hippie types, healers, that they're sort of so beautifully inward in their focus, they completely forget about, you know, the rotting kind of cucumber in their fridge or whatever. It's like you go around to some friend's house and go, ooh, you know, and they haven't hoovered for months, but they're just darling people, but they just don't consider their space. And so they've always got the windows closed, or they never let the sunlight in, you know, and sunlight is so amazing. It's so kind of antibacterial and all that, you know. And so just making sure the energy is circulating, the fresh air is circulating. I mean, there's so many different types of chi. There's the air, there's water, there's the earth energies, the cosmic energies, the human energy. But even really simple things like making sure you've got a cross draft or whatever helps to refresh things. And then, of course, you can get ionizers as well, can't you? Air filters and ionizers. They're really, really nice. Really nice.
I'm making a note of all of this because I'm moving in about 2 weeks.
And is that into your new place, Fiona, the one that you manifested?
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Actually, I'll tell you an interesting thing. I've never shared this anywhere before, but I work with a spiritual teacher who's very much in tune with the energies, everything under the sun. And I was fretting one day and sort of, oh yeah, I was fretting because I was saying, gosh, I'm going to have to get somewhere, you know, new to live. And, you know, I'm in this beautiful place now that I rent from a friend. It's fabulous. But anyway, he's going to sell it. And I was fretting, and, you know, she tuned into the energies. I mean, she's pretty amazing. And she described this house that I'm moving into.
Oh, nice.
To a T. She said, don't worry about it, because there's a gem of a house that's there for you. And she said, it's not finished right now, so it's not available, it's not. But she said, what you've got to do is you have to put the energy out. You have to tell people what you're looking for. Tell people that you're looking for somewhere. And she said, it's going to come from word of mouth. Word of mouth. Someone is going to say to you, Fiona, you need to go and look. And that's exactly what happened. Exactly. It was my trainer at the gym, a personal trainer. And he said, have you seen those houses that Glenn has made, has built? He's a local builder. And I said, look, they're way too expensive for me. Forget it. He said, you need to go see them. You need to go see them. So it was just because he was pushing me to. And what happened was, of course, I fell in love with it. It's completely new and, you know, in the middle of nowhere, but just fabulous. There's just about 6 or 7 of them. And I said, look, obviously I love it. It's my dream. It's just about 40,000 too expensive for me. And the extraordinary thing is they actually dropped the price. They said, you clearly love the place. I know the guy from just going to the gym. I mean, not very well, but in passing. And it's exactly, she even said to me, it's a little bit bling. I said, I can handle it. Bring on the bling.
Nothing wrong with bling, yeah.
And my son was with me at the time, and he said to me, oh my gosh, have you seen the bathroom? It's completely bling. And I went in, and it's like a big shower head, and it's sparkly, shiny tiles. I wouldn't have chosen them myself. It's bling. But amazing. So yeah, these things, guys, you know, even if you can't touch them or hold them or see them, there is so much to all of this, I guess, energy approach. I mean, I think you have to do the work. You have to go out and do the stuff. You know, I didn't just sit and wait. I went out and did a whole talking, and it came in that. So yeah, does that make sense to you, Sarah?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, quite often there's a concept in the Feng Shui that the house actually chooses you, which is quite interesting. We think that we're going around choosing. And I mean, I think it's a nice idea that happens, and I do believe that you get drawn to a house subconsciously, and depending on how intentional you are. Now, Fiona's very intentional, so it's likely to be something that's a positive reinforcement for you, right? But sometimes what people do is they repeat the patterns of the childhood home, for example. So if it's a north-south home or an east-west home, or if it's like a basement flat that people were brought up in like central London or whatever, even in a really amazing part of London, it's still a basement flat, and they still then get a basement flat wherever else they go or whatever, It's funny how, because space is so powerful, there's so many studies done about scent and the images that go through your mind when you're a small child. And I would imagine as a small child as well, because children tend to be very open and receptive, don't they? So they are going to feel the energy. I mean, I know they do, the way some of the kids look at me when I go around, like, and they look at me and they know that I'm there to help, they just know it. And the animals and the pets as well. It's hilarious. I often feel like Snow White. It's so funny, like that, because it's almost like they can tell that I'm there to help, And the cats will come and sit on my lap or something. And the owner, I have this all the time. The owners will say, he or she or whatever, the cat, they never like anybody. How is it they like you? That's amazing. And this Feng Shui Snow White, get used to it kind of thing. It's so funny, So where was I? What were we talking about?
Manifesting and houses. Is it because it's an alignment of the house?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So I think it's both. I think you can be intentional about it, definitely, and that's the best way to be, in a way. And I really like helping people to find their next best home. Just looking at what I do is look at floor plans, and then out of, say, 10 floor plans, I'll narrow them down to, like, okay, these 2 are worth visiting, and I do that for businesses. I've got a couple to go and see in London next week. We've looked at about 4 or 5, dismissed some of them. Some of them are no longer available because it moves very quickly. And then you just, you have your hit list of which ones to go and look at, because you do really, if you're going to buy somewhere or rent for a substantial amount of time, you really do want to go and have a look at it, and then figure out which one it is that is best for you. Because otherwise they tend to kind of, like, or their husband likes it but they're not too keen, or the other way around, or it's quite interesting.
I mean, is there ever a house that can never be fixed? Never be fixed. Like, there's a house and you're not happy there, or you don't feel that things are going well for you there, and that you feel like, you just got to move, you just got to get out of there before things will start to improve?
So yeah, I mean, I really don't like giving people bad news, but there are some properties that are just too difficult, that it is going to, like, in every single regard. Like, I've got a huge kind of list of things that I go through. It's, how does the astrology interact with that space? What is the physical form like? Is it supportive or not? What are the flying stars like? Are the toilets in the bad chi and the bedrooms in the good chi, or whatever? Sometimes it's completely the other way around. You've got the toilets draining all the good energy, you've got the bedrooms in all the crap energy. You've got really bad form. The astrology connection to the house is just non-existent or unsupportive, and so it's just too much of a nightmare. It's going to cost too much to remedy, and at that point you just have to sort of, I do sort of tiptoe initially, because some people are quite attached to their home, so I have to get a feeling of what's possible, because the last thing I want to do is tell somebody they need to move when they're really not in a position to, so but yeah, I mean, it hasn't happened an awful lot, but it has happened. And there's some of them are just it's too much trouble. You could fix it, but you'd use up so much energy, time and resources that it's just not productive. So it's best to just let go, move on.
I was just thinking the same question. Maeve has just said, would you recommend any, good books or specific people? Have you got people that you have trained, Sarah, who are around the country?
I have indeed. In fact, Karen just mentioned one of them, Denise. She was a student of mine many years ago. She's gone off and trained with other people as well, which is great. And and we have an agreement that, you know, if there's things that I can't do for whatever reason, she's happy to help out. So I've got a guy up in Liverpool. I've got I've got connections all over the place, really. And then, sorry.
Is that all on your site, Sarah? Should we look at your website for that?
Yeah, I don't give them a profile. You know, I do most of the work myself, but when I do need other people, then they're there, basically. So, and then I work with a woman who does space clearing as well, which is good. We both do it together because it's easier when there's two of you.
Is the space clearing like with sage and all of that?
Yeah, yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah, we open up a ceremony, a sort of prayer and things like that, and we have this sacred altar. It's quite full on, because there's two of us. Yeah, create quite a powerful container, really. And I, in fact, have a book coming out in May. So, and that's with it's called 5D Wellbeing.
Oh.
And it's coming out in May, possibly June. It's being published by Author's Place over in America, and that's more to do with new builds. Really, it's about how to use Feng Shui for new builds.
And is there a general Feng Shui book that you might recommend, like Lillian 2, or maybe
I'll tell you, I've got a lot of time for Ava Wong. She's really good. Yeah.
Ava Wong. Okay.
And I've got some online courses. Again, they're coming out soon. They're probably to coincide with my book. And all the video content's been shot. And that's more about the sort of self-help Feng Shui that people want to know about. I've had a few inquiries about, I used to teach a lot. I did it for 7 years, taught quite a few people. And there seems to be a demand for that again. So I'm thinking of doing a practitioner or maybe an intermediate. I'm certainly going to do some intros, but obviously with the whole situation, it's a little tricky, I think, to do a practitioner course and not have any one-to-one time or face-to-face time. But I think I'm going to be able to get around that with Zoom and things like that, you know. Yeah. Or I don't know how it's going to be. There may be a break in the lockdown and we can all gather, but I feel confident to do introduction and intermediate courses.
Yep. Now I've got questions, and then I have a question myself. So Maeve is saying, I live in a house that is 120 years old, and I'm in the attic over 3 floors. Definitely not a new build. Yeah. And someone else is saying we're both working from home due to the pandemic. So extra electrical equipment. Yeah, gosh, yes. What could we do to help energy flow? Maybe plants. Also trying to sell the house.
Yeah, I mean, if you're working from home and you're in a big city and you can afford to downsize, or you may even upsize because you may get more bang for your buck, mightn't you? I don't know, but that's one way out of that. But yeah, what they've already said, the plants is really helpful. I think the peace lilies are particularly good at helping with the electro smog. Okay. There are products. There's a few products on my website actually under the shop that are really good at what they do is they mask the sort of unsupportive energies. So, and then some of them are quite small, sort of personal devices that you can put on your desk or just carry in your handbag or whatever. They range from smaller ones to ones that will cover the entire house or apartment. And then if you can make the investment, a friend of mine does shielding, which is that he has these certain paints and flooring that will shield a property from negative energy, like geopathic stress and things like that. And he did it at his own place, and he used to have terrible sleep and really bad dreams, and he's slept like an absolute log ever since he did it, because there's so much hidden stuff. And then the other thing is, if you can, I mean, I personally don't have it because I'm still addicted to my Sonos, but if you can have wired connection of internet, that brings down the sort of electrostatic. And then also something I've been looking at recently is phone systems that are wired instead of the handheld phones. Because I've also done a lot of work with real experts in their fields. Deborah Davis, she's amazing, and she's done so much work on the influence of portable phones, mobile phones, 5G and all that. And the thing I think that a lot of people don't understand, because they're not scientists, let's face it, it's quite dry having to look through all these papers on radio frequency, stuff like that. But it's not like, again, it's a little bit like the Feng Shui. It's not going to like kill you overnight if you don't do something, but over a period of time, it's like that drip, drip, drip effect. So what with everything else that's going on, the more we can do to support ourselves and to reduce that constant kind of onslaught. It doesn't give you cancer, I'd never be as irresponsible as to say that, but it can challenge your body so much that you may end up, in a compromised immune system because you've had that onslaught all the time. But of course, every situation is completely different. So
during the day, are you saying that if you have the option to use a regular old landline, use the landline instead of your mobile all day?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I never ever have it like this. I never, because I mean, my ear gets hot, so if I am using the mobile, which I do a lot, but I'll have it on speaker, or I've still got those old-fashioned earbuds with the wired earbuds. I've still got those. And same for your landline. If you can have like a wired landline instead of one that is, because the communication base, it communicates all the time. It's not just when there's a telephone call, it's emanating this field all the time. So, again, it's not in and of itself, it's not dangerous, but it's like the accumulated effect. Especially if you're in an apartment, when I used to live in Hemel Hempstead, there are about, 15, 16 different Wi-Fi networks. I mean, why don't they just have one, to serve the whole, or two or three, instead of like everybody's crisscrossing each other, I mean, I never slept particularly well at that flat. So.
Turn the Wi-Fi off at night?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, it's just these simple things that we can do. And then my last question, unless anyone has a question, if so, put it in there. My last question is, I have to ask it.
Yeah, I've got about 5 minutes now. So
Marie Kondo.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think? I love Marie Kondo. I really do.
She's an absolutely. Oh, thank you, Carrie. She's an. Deborah Davis is my Shiro, says.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
fantastic. Yeah. So. Oh God, I've slipped my mind. What were we saying?
Marie Kondo.
Marie Kondo. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, she's a marketing dream, isn't she? This tiny little Japanese woman.
She's sensational. But she
what a nice lady. She's so sweet.
I think she's fabulous. But the interesting thing, I was reading about her story, and she entered a competition. She entered a book competition, and whoever was leafing through the applications came across hers. and he just knew. He hadn't even met her, but he just had this feeling that she had something special. He got in touch with her, and he's either her agent or he gave her the publishing deal. I think he gave her the publishing deal straight away.
Oh, right. Yeah.
He just knew it.
Yeah.
I think that's I think that our intention, the energy that we exude from our intention, I think that's hugely important.
Oh, definitely.
I look at her, she strikes me as she's like a monk. She's like a monk, and she actually did live in a monastery for a short period of time because she's so pure.
Yeah.
She's so pure in her intention.
Yeah.
Whatever you think about her approach, her intention is so clean.
Yeah, absolutely.
The highest.
I haven't read her book and I haven't really listened to her much, but I have seen a tiny little video of her, and I just thought she was so sweet, you know, so lovely, you know, and I can see why she's just been this sensation, you know. It's so lovely. It's very simple, and simplicity is always very beautiful and very powerful, I think.
Now, there's just one last question and then we'll let you go, gorgeous, because I know you've got to go. Jenny is saying, I'm clearing my office out at the weekend as I'm getting a new radiator in the interest of creativity. Is it good to put my desk by the window or in front of the window?
I would put it, if you could put your desk where you've got a solid wall behind you and then the window either to your side or opposite you so you can see out. That's what I would do. I wouldn't put the desk actually in front of the window and looking out, because then you'll have your back exposed. So that would be my advice for you. And I just wanted to say, Fiona, that when you're talking about intention, I mean, that's really the three treasures of the whole Chinese system of Feng Shui, is that the heaven, the human, and the earth. So the human is what you're talking about, is the intentional part. It's like your education, how you apply your mind, what your social kind of upbringing was, who your mentors are, and all that. And then the heaven is like the more like the fate, the horoscope, the more sort of massive, sort of uncontrollable. Thank God we've got some of that. Thank goodness there's some mystery. And then the earth is the environment and the feng shui. So, you know, it's never like all about the feng shui or all about the horoscope or all about your mindset, even though the mindset's so powerful. And I know it can override everything, right? But it can get exhausting if you're only using your human chi. It can get really exhausting. That's the power of having a supportive environment, really, is it just makes life smoother. Doesn't mean you never have any problems. That's not the case, because the Chinese believe you need to have some adversity in order to dig deep, you know, and find out who you are and what you're capable of doing. Yeah, so I hope that's been helpful.
It's wonderful. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I absolutely love it. Thank you so much to everyone for showing up. And no, thank you so much, Sarah. And I'll make sure I'll put this on YouTube, and then we'll put it out there a little bit, and I'll put all your details around the video. Yeah.
Lovely, thank you. Yeah, thanks for showing up, people. It's nice to see everybody on video instead of just a black hole.
Definitely, absolutely. All right, my
Thanks,
thank you so much.
Take care.
Thank you, darling. Talk to you again. Bye, everyone. See you soon. Have a gorgeous evening. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Bye. Bye for now. Bye.